For me, it's often seemed like life has just been a series of transitions. Some of that's my fault. When you're a kid, you want to be older. You want to be able to, walk to school by yourself. You want to be able to, go buy something at a store without mama being there. Then you want your driver's license. Then you want to graduate from high school. Then you want to go off to college. Then you want to get married. And then you want to have kids. And step by step, we face these transitions sometimes with kind of a glibness to it, like this is the next thing. But then there are sometimes transitions in our life that we don't expect. A sudden change of job. Maybe you got fired or your company went out of business. Maybe you hadn't prepared yourself for retirement and the changes that makes. Or it could be, a lot of times when you bring in the kidlets into your family, your marriage dramatically changes because of the stress of being caregivers for younger. But also sometimes that means you're caring for your aging mom and dad, and that causes transitional stress. So that's going to be our topic today. And once again, I'm so excited to have my very, very good friend and former co-host of LIFETalks podcast, Ben Rudolph, with us today. Ben is the director of the Lake and Camp in Traverse City, Michigan area. And Ben, glad to have you again.
Great to be here.
I'm making you work on your on your time away.
Anytime I get to spend time with you, Dan.
Oh, man. You see, this is why he was my work wife right here. Yeah, it used to be the joke. His kids would call me his work wife, and I would call. But anyway, we're just glad always to be together, and we have a good time. But Ben, you've been through a lot of transition in the last year or two.
Yeah.
So you've moved to a different state. You moved from the south to the north. That in and of itself is a stress factor.
That's huge.
Yeah. And then you take your Arizona-born and raised wife
to the Northwoods of Michigan.
Northwoods of Michigan, where she's going to experience winter in a very special way, an unending, seemingly way.
Yeah.
You've had two sons who either graduated or shortly graduated from college. You have a daughter who got married just over July 4th weekend.
Yep.
You started a new job. Mm-hmm. You left a church that loved you and that you loved.
Yes.
You're starting over in a new church. You just had and I'm not even
in a new field. Like, it's not even another pastoral transition.
Right.
It's a parachurch ministry, but it's a lot more organizational leadership than what I was doing before.
So I know a lot of our listeners, everybody goes through transition. If you don't, then you're just not aware. If you're going through it, you just don't even realize it. But oftentimes it can be unnerving.
Yeah.
At times it can be a time of resetting.
Yep.
Sometimes when you transition, you leave some things behind that were really not good for you, and now you have a fresh start.
Yep.
There are other times when you're going to desperately miss things that you used to have access to and you don't in the future.
Yes.
What have you found out in this season of life, how transition has impacted you?
Well, it affects you a ton. I think you have to give yourself a little bit of grace to figure out how you even feel about it. Sometimes it's like, you might be super optimistic and be like, it's going to be great. We're going to have new friends and all this new sounds exciting. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, but I miss this old stuff. So the first thing I would say is allow yourself to grieve things that you've left behind, because grieving is a natural process to life. And there are things that you have to learn how to end things well. We don't do that a lot as human beings. We just kind of move on, and then we're like, man, I didn't process that. And so you've got give yourself grace to process. Maybe there's mourning that you needed to process. I think the other thing is don't pressure yourself to create what you had back in your other place. I think it takes time to establish friendships. I mean, when Liz and I were talking about this the other day. When you spend 25 years in Charlotte, 20 or 19 of those in Lake Norman in Denver, the roots run deep, and so I've been up there since January. Liz has been up there since April, and it's okay if you haven't figured out, okay, where's our favorite place to, go out to eat, or date nights, or everything is new, and you're trying to figure out who are my friends, and so I think the first thing is give yourself grace to not force yourself to feel something or to do something if it's not there. The second thing is don't put pressure on yourself to almost this arbitrary timeline we put in our minds to be like, man, if I don't have this thing figured out in by this time we're doing it wrong. One of the biggest challenges that we have had is finding a home church. I think I've shared this with you personally. We've shared it with some other friends. And it's not that they're not good churches up there, but it's challenging when you as a pastor lead a church for 25 years and then all of a sudden you're left in a role to say, I'm going to pick this church for myself. And you have all these things that you think they're like, I want this to be in the kind of church I'm looking for. And it just takes time to say what fits for us. And I used to really make fun of people that would church hop and the consumer mentality, but we're just trying to discover what is this church like. And you can't make it. I guess you can make a decision. There's some churches we went there after one, we were like, yeah, this isn't us. But saying yes to a church is important because that's where you're going to be building most of your friendships, right? As a Christian. And so just understanding that takes time. So allow yourself the time to learn those things and not rush into something before you're ready to do it. So those are the two things that just really come to the top of my mind right now of just saying in our transition, those are the two things I've thought through. Let's take it easy. We don't have to rush into anything. And then we're just give yourself some grace to feel what you need to feel in that moment. Yeah. There's so many times that Liz or I or maybe one of our kids would be like, oh, I miss this from Lake Norman or Life Fellowship or whatever it is. And instead of being like, well, we're here now, so just be like, yeah, that was really special. Or yeah, that was a good thing that we had to leave behind. And it's okay that, it's just unfortunate that we had to say goodbye to that. So, but at least, one of the worst things you could tell someone who's struggling with an emotion is to begin this phrase by saying, well, at least.
Yeah, minimalizes their feelings.
It lacks empathy, it lacks honor and respect for the person's feelings that they're feeling, but we do it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, at least we've got a great house. I miss our old home. Yeah, well, at least we've got this house. Okay, can you at least acknowledge that? Yeah, I miss it too. Yeah. Just allow yourself to feel things, and then the thing about transitioning is let's figure out what to enjoy about this new place. Of course, it's great. My daughter got married. We love Andrew. He's our new son-in-law, and it's so cool to see your kids launch out, start their own life, and we still get together with them a few times every week and hang out. But I have these moments of both sadness and joy. I walk by my daughter's room, and it's complete. It's like this stale room now in our house. It's no longer Hallie's, and there's a part of me that's like, oh, my baby girl's gone. But then I see her life with Andrew, and I'm like, oh, I have joy.
Yeah.
Right. And plus, if my daughter was 25 and living at home, I'd probably be like
panicking.
Why aren't you go out and meet someone?
Yeah.
So I think there's all kinds of feeling. Just allow yourself to feel what you're feeling in that moment.
Yeah. As a parent, and you've kind of touched on it because this generation is different in parenting, and I've experienced this, and I know you have as well. When we grew up, even though you're younger than me, there was kind of expectation. You either graduate from high school and get a job and start looking for a place to live by yourself.
Yep.
Or you go to college, get a job, and then
move out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The notion of being 23, 25, 28 or older, living with my parents, never crossed my mind. It wasn't even something that would be an option. It wasn't
even an option for me.
Yeah. And I know a large of it is a housing expense. I mean, my first apartment was $450 a month.
Yep.
Today, that very same apartment in the building's still there and everything, is probably north of $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So, and wages are.
I was going to say wages haven't multiplied by that much. So yeah. It's a really hard thing for this younger generation to really understand the needs to launch out on your own, the jobs at what they pay, and can you afford that? It's a rough thing. I get that.
So my kids, your kids, they're experiencing stresses of transitions in a different way than we are. How would a parent today best prepare their kids for their future transitions? You know, like for instance, today, majority of people are living together, at least sexually active, but living together before they get married, and they do it for a variety of different reasons, but it prolongs marriage and it prolongs, you know, a lot of other things in life. How do we prepare our young people today? You're a camp director, you're a dad, you're a pastor, all these things. What would you say to a parent? How do I help my kid prepare for those phases in life?
I think a good thing to do would just be to ask them, what's your plan? It's a simple question. And that's not an accusatory kind of like, you better figure this out. It's hey, what are your thoughts? I'm here to help you. I'm here to navigate these feelings and emotions. But what are your thoughts after you graduate? And don't do it a month before they graduate. Ask them a year before they graduate. What are your thoughts? Now, certain children probably are like, I can't even think about it. It stresses me out. Okay, well, let's find a time to do that. Okay, some of them are going to have be much more willing to think about, okay, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm going to apply. This is the place I'm going to apply to. But be their partner. Yeah. Be their coach. But you've got to have those conversations, because I think one of the biggest problems is parents they assume that their children will have the same motivation that you and I had and say, oh, I'm not moving back home. Yeah. Right. I'm going to do this. And then but you also have the challenges of today where the job market isn't as good for young people and the cost of living is so much higher. And so it's okay to help them say, okay, well, let's save up for 6 months. While you're here at the house, we're going to have you. One of the things I did with my kids turned 22, or when they got done with school, they started paying for their own car insurance, cell phone bill. Like, I made them have some level of ownership of their own bills. Like, you can live at home, but you've got to be moving towards something. Yep. Right. And so I think those are all things that you can do to help your children that are still trying to navigate those decisions. And you know, if you have a son or daughter that's like, they've got a degree, but their field is just being overtaken by AI and they're trying to figure out what to do, like, it's okay. Yeah. Right. They might need to stay a year in your house while they try to figure out what they're going to do next, but keep checking in. What's your plan? What are you going to do? So that it's not like you're trying to guilt them into something, shame them into something, but just, hey, this is a healthy expectation. We expect you at some point to be on your own, land on your feet, and we're here to help you.
Yeah. I think another thing is, beyond asking them what's your plan, if they freak out over that, which a lot of them will, because it feels like pressure. Yeah. And it feels like I've got to get this right. Yeah. Is to, why don't we put together some different plans for you? Yeah. I think one of the disservices we've done to the previous generations, and I would put you right in the middle of this generation, because it wasn't quite true when I was in high school, but it became that way shortly. Is, if you don't go to college, you're less than. If you don't go to college, you're not going to ever make enough money. You're never going to be, or whatever. And so we pushed kids toward college, with the expectation that they were going to get deliverables accomplished and get rewards assigned to them by virtue of having completed another 4 years of education that simply are not true. Right. The fact is, I do work in my area of expertise, but it's because I'm multi-vocational. I still use my education degree, but I've never used any of my 3 education degrees in terms of qualifications to be a pastor. A lot of people have degrees, and 10, 15, 20 years after they graduate, they're not even in the same field. Right. But in today, I think we're seeing this, a resurgence, particularly among young men, is that they can earn a great living. They can take care of their family. They can be productive by learning a trade. Yes. So it may be, let's put together several plans. Let's do a college plan. Let's do I'm not going to college plan. Let's do a transitional plan that says maybe I take a gap year, and then let's look at those, and then let's force rank them. Which one do you think would be the one that you would enjoy the most, or which one, and start putting them in place. It's a little less overwhelming than to say, okay, you're going to make a plan and I'm going to hold you accountable for it. I think that adds to, our previous episode was an anxiety. It makes me anxious just thinking about, I'm approaching that age when I'm going to need to start thinking about what is my life like I'll never fully retire, but for me, retirement looks like not working 2 jobs, just working one job.
Right.
But what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I don't have a single plan, and thinking about it too much does cause me a little anxiety. But I can tell you, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do that, and that kind of gives me options, and it releases some of that stress.
Yes, it's that fine balance too. I think you find yourself that there's a God component to this, that we're not always in charge of our transitions,
Right.
And whether we are circumstances. There's the natural flow of life. Our kids getting older, they're moving out. Sometimes God shuts one door, opens another one. Sometime, but there's one of the things I would say is acknowledge the role that God is present with you in these transitions, and to know that you're not alone, and that if God is bringing whether it's a small transition or a big transition, God's doing something, and to walk with him in this process so that you don't feel the weight and the burden to figure things out on your own, to say, God, you're bringing this into my life for a reason. Help me to understand what you're doing. Help me to understand how you're teaching me to trust you more. You and I can both testify to when God really disrupted where we were in our lives. I can speak to moving up to Michigan it feels almost bigger than, I remember planting a church from Charlotte and Denver. I'm like, I was probably too young and naive to figure out what a big step that was. But moving up and doing something like this, it feels so big, but I'm just like, God, you're going to have to, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to show up, because I don't necessarily know everything I need to know right now. And so I think the most important thing, in whether it's your kids helping, leaving their home, invite God to say, let's just pray about this.
Yeah.
Let's just keep praying about this. Let's ask God, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not in your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. There is a direction that God gives to our lives, and we have to acknowledge that his role in these transitions is so important, and I need to lean on that when I don't know what to do.
That's such an important thing, and it's worthy of a pause, of reflection for our listeners. And if you find yourself in a state of uncertainty or a state of transition, and you feel that anxiety raising, it is very helpful to literally pray, God, what are you teaching me in this moment?
Yeah.
What truths about you do I need to remember? What could you be doing around me that I'm not aware of you doing in this moment? Is there something that you're trying to teach me? Is there something you're completing? Are you trying to position me for something?
Right.
Is this a consequence of something? But to ask those kind of questions, because when you do, you're literally inviting the Holy Spirit to speak to you. You're inviting the Word of God to bear its fruit in your life if you know Scripture. And it's inviting the very presence of God in all his forms to be able to walk with you in the moment. And that gives you, nobody likes to walk on an uncertain path by themselves. It's always better to walk with someone that's got your back, your side, and your front.
That's right.
And that's what God's offered to do for us. That's why he says, call upon him in the day of trouble. Call upon him when you're uncertain. And so, that was a great point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So as we kind of close this out, and in terms of the transitions that are unexpected in life, because, I know this, I think, your daughter, didn't they have a fire?
Yeah, they had a fire, I think 2 weeks before their wedding.
Yeah. And didn't you have a flood or something going with
Yeah, we had some kind of rain, some massive deluge happened in this, our basement, had a window that leaked, and so it was all kinds of craziness for about 2 weeks. Fires and floods and
so when something unexpected happens to you, when you think things are going pretty smooth and then it doesn't, or when things are overwhelming and then one more thing piles on, what are some things that we can do in those moments as well?
I know this is going to sound really weird. Laugh.
Really?
I mean, you just have to laugh. Sometimes, Ken, the guy I'm working with now, he has a saying: if we're gonna laugh about this in 5 years, let's just laugh about it now. Okay. So sometimes you just have to, I remember when downstairs was flooding, and I'm just like, okay, like, all right,
This is ridiculous.
This is gonna be great. There's some obviously some tragic transitions. And I'm not saying laugh at that. What I would also say is when those unexpected things happen, lean on your wife, your husband, your close friends. God's given you community for a reason to embody his love, right? Like we are the hands and feet of Jesus. So yes, there's obviously that presence of the Holy Spirit that he gives to us in times of need. But when you're going through something and it just feels overwhelming to you and it's the unexpected, I mean, sometimes it's just like, I have to have that talk with Liz and be like, babe, this is how I'm feeling right now. You know, and there's always times, and you probably experience this too, Dan, like there are times when I want to be grumpy and complain and she's super strong. And there's times that she might be like, oh, this is aggravating to me. And I have more of a strength of spirit. And so we're leaning on each other when we feel like when one of us is weaker in the moment. And I think God is that beautiful partnership that God gives us in marriage and friendships to navigate these things that are hard. And that's why he created us for community. He created us. It is not good for man to be alone. So I think the thing that I've learned is when I'm going through something like that, to lean on the people around me that I trust and to be honest with them and say, man, this was so hard. I need your perspective on this. Yeah. And so that's what I've learned. Besides laughing, lean on community.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, you look at the examples of Scripture, one of the things Satan's strategies to discourage people is to make them feel isolated.
100%.
With Elijah, it was like,
yep. I'm the last one left. No one cares about you.
Yeah. Yeah. And God often uses Satan often uses exaggeration to discourage the people who otherwise would be leaning on God.
That's right.
But if he makes you feel separated from God, like God doesn't care for you, God doesn't love you, God's abandoned you, and or you don't have anybody who cares about you on this planet. You don't, you're all alone. In those moments, discouragement creeps in, and then the opportunities of transition are diminished.
That's right.
Because we're not growing, we're not learning, we're not experiencing God's best. So, well, Ben, I'm very sad that we're at this point because we said we would sit and do three. I will tell our listeners that we have developed a technology, and Phil Hall has done such a great job of helping prepare us for this, that we're going to be able to do more remote podcasts. In other words, I'll be here in the studio, but our guest will be somewhere else. In some cases, other states, as Ben would be one of those. But we'll be able to kind of expand. And I've got some guests lined up that are going to be pretty exciting for us to be a part of this, but no guest will excite me more than having Ben Rudolph back in the future. But, Ben, if these podcasts weren't for anybody else today, they were for me.
Oh, praise God.
I love it. I'm always encouraged when I'm with you and so forth. I would love to see us do another one of those episodes we did 2 years ago where we're like predicting.
Yeah.
We got to do some nonsense ones too.
Absolutely. Honestly, the things that I miss the most, obviously there's a lot of things I miss about the church. There's a lot of things I miss about the job, but this right here, this is one of the things I miss the most.
Yeah. It's funny to me because I talk to people who have podcasts. Everybody wants to start a podcast. You know that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And at about 6 episodes, they run out of things to say. And quite frankly, I wondered if we'd be able to do them for, even a year.
Yeah.
Now we're on year 6 or 7.
Yep.
Almost 700 episodes.
Unbelievable.
And every time I'm with you, I'm thinking, we could do one on this and do one on this and this. And so, but we miss you, man. But we love you. We're proud and excited for you. And the wonderful thing about living in today's technology world is that we can stay in touch.
That's right. So I'm looking forward to it. You just let me know what the topic is and
all right.
We'll talk.
All right. Well, as always, we want to thank you for listening to us at Life Talks, and I hope that you'll share us on your social media feed, tell others about us, post our little clips that you'll see from time to time, and invite people to follow us on YouTube where you can watch us, or on your podcast delivery platform, whatever, Podbean or Apple iTunes or whatever, and let other people know. If you would, leave us a review, and that actually helps us with our algorithms and so forth. But you honor us with your presence. You can send us any comments at lifetalks@lifecharlotte.com. Until next time, thanks for joining us here at Life Talks.